Welcome to the Glenn Mercer Show, where we talk all things vegan. If you're not already vegan, no worries, we'll get you there. If you are, tune in for health advice, information on climate change, and all the damage done by our most destructive industry, animal agriculture. We'll also talk cooking, theater, film, and culture. My 2 reasons for starting this podcast: to entertain, to inform, and to make people vegan. Oh, that's 3. Shit. Welcome to the Glenn Mercer Show. You could find us across all your favorite podcast platforms. You could find us on YouTube, and please remember to subscribe. And you could find us at realmeneatplants.com. My guest today is Tommy Sonnen, who was a cattle rancher and is not today a cattle rancher. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's hear your whole story. Where did you grow up, Tommy?
I was born and raised in Alvin, Texas. That's about 40 miles south of Houston. And when I was raised as a small boy, it was a small town, and you had to drive 30, 45 minutes to get to the next town, which is close to Houston. Now it's basically a part of Houston.
Okay. And were you raised in a cattle ranching family?
Not really. My grandfather and my great grandfather had a ranch between San Antonio and Houston back in the 1800s. He was born on Christmas Day, 1859. And I'm not sure when exactly he started raising animals, but back then in this part of Texas, you didn't have to own your land. It was called the open range. If you branded the cows, they were yours. And that went out of legal, in 1937, I think is when open range stopped.
Okay. So did that continue to be part of the family business?
No, he had a slaughterhouse in Houston at the turn of the century, and did pretty well there in Houston. And his son had a little ranch they bought for $1.50 an acre in Alvin, Texas. That's where I grew up. And in 1929, when the Depression took hold, he lost all his business in Houston. He moved in with his only son, my grandfather, in Alvin, Texas, at the small ranch, and they had a little slaughterhouse in Alvin and raised some cows there.
Okay, so your grandfather had a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, he had multiple slaughterhouses.
Multiple slaughterhouses.
Yeah, and he was he would raise the cows between San Antonio and Houston, and they were moved into, and I don't know the whole history, but I've got his brands and spurs and a lot of other artifacts from that time period. When he lost everything in Houston and moved in with his son, my grandfather in Alvin, they had a small place there until he died in 1937. After he died, my grandfather just had a few cows, with the neighbors and everything. And he was more of an entrepreneur. He was a builder. And then he had 3 sons, and one of them was my dad, the middle son. And my dad lied about his age to get into World War II. And after he came back from World War II, they didn't do a lot of, ranching then. They just kept a few cows, right there on the home place. And my grandmother, now she sold turkeys, raised a crop of turkeys on most years, and then she sold eggs, 10 cents a dozen back when I was a kid. I don't know what they sold for back in the 30s and 20s, but she had always raised, and every Friday, my grandmother, if you were the chicken that was the least producer, because she had about, I'd say between 100 and 200 chickens at all times. But on every Friday, she would go out there and she'd find a chicken that wasn't producing, and there was a stump right at the gate. She'd chop the head off, and then they had fried chicken every Friday.
Boy, those chickens must have been nervous about who was producing the least. They were
Yeah.
probably pointing fingers at each other.
And my family, more than likely, all my relatives that have passed, if they were here today and saw what I've done with my life, I don't think they would be against it. I think they would think, we had to do what we had to do to survive. Texas in the 1800s, and then after the Depression, you didn't have a lot of opportunities, and there was no
Right.
Beyond Burgers down at the corner.
Right. Now, so your grandfather was raising some animals, but did he hold on to the slaughterhouses that were in the family?
No, no, that went away in 1929, the one in
Oh,
Houston, and the small one in Alvin, actually, it sat really close to where the police station is now. And
uh-huh.
when he died, all went away in
All right.
1937.
So, when you grew up, you were in a family that was raising some animals, but was not in the slaughterhouse business and didn't have a lot of cattle, right?
Right. And we didn't actually have any cows when I was growing up. My dad worked at Dow Chemical. And then when I was 18 years old, I went to work at Dow Chemical. And when he came back from the war, uh, there were lots of jobs opening up everywhere. He had his saddle and everything, but he didn't do a lot of ranch work. He, uh,
Okay.
he, uh, I got back into it. Uh, my family was always survivors. My dad, he was in World War II, he was in Vietnam, uh, and he taught me to survive, to grow a garden, to hunt. And, the family, yes, they had a slaughterhouse and they butchered cows, but it's not like what happens today. They used a bullet to put the cows down, and when they went hunting, it was a disgrace to wound a deer. You didn't shoot running deer; you shot. It was just a disgrace. And what I noticed growing up, as the men got older in my family, they quit killing animals. They would go deer hunting, but all the young people would do the hunting. They would sit there and play cards and everything. My grandfather hunted for probably 15 years. The last 15 years he hunted, he never pulled the trigger on a deer. And I'd always say, "Well, have you seen any deer?" "Yeah." "Well, have you shot any?" "No." "Have you seen any big ones?" "Yeah." "Have you shot any?" "No." And I had even quit hunting when the first time I owned a piece of property that I lived on, that deer were on. They became my friends. That was even before I was a vegan. I just had no desire to shoot them anymore. And what I've learned over the years is that people don't like to kill animals. They do it, for survival. And yeah, there's some people that are off in the head that probably like to kill things.
Right.
But when I bought that ranch that Renee converted to the vegan farm animal sanctuary, uh, there were deer all over it, and I didn't. I quit hunting well
Yeah.
before I became a vegan.
All right. So how did you get into ranching?
Well, I always knew that it was in my background, and I always loved land. And in Texas, due to the tax ramifications, you can't own land without paying high taxes unless you either cut hay on it, raise cows on it, or have a farm on it. It's an unbelievable subsidy that you get. For instance, we'll just say 50 acres out really close to Austin. If you have 50 acres close to Austin and you don't run cows on it and you don't have it listed in agriculture, you'll probably pay something like $20,000 of taxes a year.
Wow.
But if you put 20 cows on that 50 acres, you'll probably pay $100 a year. So what do you want to pay, $100 a year or $20,000 a year? And that's the reason that Beyond and Impossible and all these vegan substitutes can't compete with the the animal ag, because animal ag gets subsidies right and left. It's incredible how much they get.
Yeah. So, so you had the land and you decided to avoid taxes. Maybe I should raise cattle on it.
Well, let me go back. I started working in Dow as a contractor the day I turned 18. I joined Dow when I was 25 in a really terrible job, and I worked my way and I went to school at night, and I became a lab tech, and then I started running labs. And the people that I met at Dow, everybody, did something with their money. Some people just raised their kids and bought a house. A lot of people that I knew and hung around with bought land. And because we had pretty good jobs and we worked hard, we worked a lot of overtime, I would buy a piece of land to hunt on way out in West Texas. And then I never lived there. And then I would sell that and buy more land. And, I just parlayed it up until I was about 40 years old, 45 years old. The land I had, I always leased it out to people so I'd have low taxes. And I would help them with the agriculture, the cows and the goats and everything, but I never had my own. I just more or less kept it in agriculture so that I'd have low taxes. When I bought the place in 2002, down in Angleton, Texas, I had 96 acres, and the lady had some cows on there when I bought it. And I said, well, what are you going to do with the cows? And she said, well, I'm going to sell them. And I said, well, let me see if we can work out a deal. And I just kept hers. And then I started adding more to it. And I got my herd up to about 30 female cows. I was never a big rancher. I was just, if I had 30 female cows, I would sell maybe 20 to 25 calves every year, or every 6 months, to a year. I would go round up a few and sell them. And you kept the mamas. And anyway, what I was trying to do was to get a small herd of cows and be able to help and retire early. And I had the land paid off. I had a herd of about 30 female cows and a bull. You always have to have a bull. And then my ex-wife comes along, Renee. I was married to her in the 90s. And then we got back together, and she came to the ranch. She wanted me to move to Houston. And I said, no, I can't do that. And she moved into the ranch in 2010. We got married.
All right. Now, Tommy, let me back you up. You had already been married to Renee?
Yes, we were married in the 1990s. She was a country and western singer, and I'd I was her roadie and stuff like that. And
And
then
that was before you had this land with the cows.
yes, I had land in West Texas with deer
Right.
and goats and stuff on it, but
Right.
at
But you
that
didn't
time,
have this land with the cows.
no, I was letting other people lease my land at that point.
Okay. Then you and Renee go your separate ways,
Yeah,
and you get the land with the cows.
yeah.
And then what? Renee comes back to visit?
Oh, we always, kept in touch and
You were on
whatnot.
good terms.
Yeah, it was crazy, but
How
we
did you
loved
meet
it.
originally when she was a country and western singer?
My best friend, who was a rancher, back in about 1991, called me up one night. I was on evening shift, so I got
Uh-huh.
off about 11 o'clock or 10:30,
Yeah.
and he calls me up and goes, "Tommy, come have one drink with me down here at the Hilton." And I said, "No," I hung up. because he did this all the time. He called me back and said, "Just one drink, Tommy. Come up here. There's a girl that wants to meet you up here." I said, "Yeah, right." Hung up. He called me back the third time, and somehow or another, I said, "Okay, I'll come up there." I walked in there, and Renee saw me, and she came, and he was lying, of course. She didn't want to meet me, but she came up, and she was doing a little lounge act there, and she sang crazy and sat in my lap, and and I was like, well, I thought, okay, she did want to meet me. Well, no, she didn't. That was just part of her act, you know. And anyway, we hit it off, and we got married about, I don't know, 6 months later.
Uh-huh. Okay, and that
Yep.
was back in the 1990s.
Yes.
All right. Then you go your separate ways, but you stay in touch.
Yes.
And now you got the land with the cows, and Renee visits you?
Yeah, she visited me. And I kept up with her. I knew her
Uh-huh.
where her mom lived and everything. Uh, anyway, we hit it off again, and I guess you'd call it double jeopardy. I decided to give it another shot, and she wanted me to move to Houston. I said, no, I like where I'm living. I like what I'm doing. I got a little herd of cattle out here. And what I discovered when I got the cows, it wasn't like I was a novice at it, because I had a lot of friends that were doing that kind of thing, and helped them, before I started. But the first year that I had my cows, before Renee got involved, I realized this is never going to make me any money unless I start raising my own hay, because if you buy hay to feed them in the wintertime, you're not going to make any money. So I had friends that had a lot of land that I could cut hay on. So I bought all the equipment to cut hay. So now I'm selling hay, and I've got cows, and I'm working a lot of overtime at Dow, and it was pretty busy life. I've never
Right.
been one to be bored.
Uh-huh. All right. So now you're remarried.
Yep.
You're working at Dow. You're raising cattle. You're raising hay. Then what happens?
And then about 2013, Renee started getting really weird, talking about, why are you selling these animals? It's not right. And this gets worse and worse into
Was
2014.
that after she fell in love with the cow called Rowdy Girl?
Yes. What happened was I had a friend that had a couple of doggy calves,
Uh-huh.
calves that didn't have mamas.
Uh-huh.
And he wanted to sell them. I think they were 150 a piece. And I told Renee, hey, why don't we go look at these calves over here? Because she'd never open a gate for me. She'd never get involved with anything. She was just a pain in the rear as far as the cows went. And I said, why don't you consider buying a couple calves and going in with me on the herd?
Uh-huh.
And so I took her over there, and she instantly goes, oh, yeah, I want them. But they became her best friends, her babies, her
Uh-huh.
kids, not her livestock.
Uh-huh.
And then Rowdy Girl grew up and started having babies, and then all Rowdy Girl and her babies were off limits to me. I should not even
Yeah.
think about taking them to the sale barn.
Uh-huh.
But she started watching videos of slaughterhouses and stuff back in 2014, and probably even before. In fact, she was trying to justify it there for a while. Probably in 2013, she said, we're going to start going humane. We need to start eating all of our dairy products from this dairy over in Lamarck. She had a friend of hers that she met, and we became a focal point for humane dairy. It was a small dairy farm. Guy would bring these giant ice chests over at our house with all the milk, the cheese, the goat cheese, all different kinds of products, butter, and like on the top of a gallon of milk would be a piece of tape that had the cow's name on it. Dixie or Fluffy or whatever. And I'd never, and sometimes there'd be like this much cream on top. Sometimes there'd be this much. Sometimes it'd be a little greenish color, pinkish color, blue. And it kind of grossed me out at first. But after I got used to it, I said, okay, I can do this. I was drinking this humane cow milk and humane dairy
Now,
products,
what gave it the different colors?
what they were eating.
Oh, okay.
And
And so
and
what
so
made this milk humane? Was poetry
well,
read to the cows as they were milked? What?
that's you got to listen to the process. Okay, we did this for a while, and Renee was even she was trying to justify what I was doing,
Uh-huh.
selling cows, and she comes up in 2014. I the last time I sold cows was February 2014.
Uh-huh.
And for the rest of the year, she was watching slaughterhouse videos and stuff. And she goes, "Why don't we eat our own cows?" And I said, "I don't want to eat a cow I know." "Well, then you're a hypocrite." And I said, "Renee, I go to the store, buy a couple little packages. That's all I need." And she goes, "Well, if you don't eat your own cows, you're a hypocrite. And you need to pick out a cow. And we're going to get, the milkman to go butcher it. And he's going to split it up amongst his customers." And so I said, "Well, I don't want to do that." She goes, "Well, then you're a hypocrite." And I said, "Look, if you want to do it, that's fine. Well, who should I take and have cut up?" "Well, I would do Broke Leg, the one that got out of the trailer that hurt his leg in the last time I sold cows. I called him Broke Leg. His name is Lucky now, and he's still alive today because she went vegan right before he got slaughtered and cut up for the humane dairy customer or milkman. And we quit doing all that stuff when she went vegan on October 31st, 2014. Uh, she told me to get all the animal products out of the house, that I couldn't have them in the house, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, were you
It got,
thinking your wife had gone nuts?
I didn't know what to think. All I knew was I was thinking, here comes second divorce, and she knows a lot of really good lawyers, and I got to be very careful, or I'm gonna lose my ranch.
Uh-huh.
And
So you were
I went
nervous.
I went vegan about 6 months later, but it was some craziness in between those
Well, tell us
times.
about the in-between part. That sounds interesting.
Well, I'll tell you the first part, when all this came down. Well, okay, she was vegan October 31st,
What
and
was it about Halloween that drove
we
her
went
vegan?
to we went to my mom's house, and she had beef stew, and
Uh-huh.
all my nephews and my sister and brother-in-law and all the kids were being served. And when Renee gets served, uh, October 31st, 2014, she told my mother, "I can't eat this." And
Mm-hmm.
there's all kind of activity, noise going on. Everybody's having a good time until my wife goes, my mother said, "You can pick it out, Renee." And she said, "No, I can't pick it out. There's dead floating animal parts in here, and I'm not doing that." And she went vegan that day. Uh, and my family all probably thought, "Well, oh, here we go again. Crazy Renee." And but I think of myself as a very open-minded person. If you
Mm-hmm.
can show me the statistical data that proves a point, I will change my mind. And
Is
by
that
the
what you
end of
said to Renee?
no, I didn't say that to Renee.
Oh.
There was a lot of craziness. She was trying to get me to watch slaughterhouse videos, and I was going, "No, I don't need to watch that stuff. I know what goes on."
You had
Uh,
visited slaughterhouses,
well, yeah, I know what's going on because I've been a hunter my whole life, and
but
I've
had you
never
ever
actually
been inside a slaughterhouse?
I've never been on the kill floor,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I've been in a lot of small slaughterhouses.
Mm-hmm.
Where I took my deer meat and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I know exactly what goes down in them, and I knew what my great grandparents did, and
Mm-hmm.
my father got a 22 rifle, little bitty short rifle. The rule was when you had to wait till you were 6 years old and you got a 22.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need to be taught any rules because you already knew them. You don't
Uh-huh.
shoot toward livestock. You don't shoot toward the house, and you didn't have to be told not to shoot people because back in those days, guns were tools and they
Uh-huh.
were used quite often. But anyway, Renee was vegan. We're talking December 2014. I've got a lot of young, almost grown calves out there, and here winter's coming on, and Renee's gone, and I start trying to load some up to take to the sale barn because I haven't bought into this vegan stuff at all. I have no idea she knows Kip Anderson, and she's got an underground blog, something about Secret Diary of a Rancher's Wife. I have no idea she's communicating with a bunch of vegans. I'm just trying to figure out how to save my ranch and get a divorce without losing it. And because there's no way in hell I'm going to become a vegan. No way.
Right.
And at that point, and here she comes, she catches me loading cows. And she comes out there and she goes, if you load these cows, I'm following you to the sale barn. I'm either going to buy them back with your credit card or I'm going to go to jail and you're going to be the most embarrassed person in the county when you bail me out. And, uh, and
But she was confident you would bail her out.
well, that's what she said. I threw my hat on the ground. I said every cuss word in the book, stomping around, going, okay, that's it. I'm selling the whole herd. This is it. I'm getting out of the business. And she comes back at me with this, I'm doing anything I can to, not be violent because I'm just upset. And and she goes, oh, well, if you're going to sell the herd, why don't you just sell them to me? And I said, no, that would be crazy. No, I'll buy them. And then I'm thinking, oh, okay, this will go away in a week or two because she can't buy them. I said,
Uh-huh.
okay, I'll sell them to you at a discount price. Well, will you lease the land to me for $1 a year? I said, yeah. How about 2 years? Yeah. Thinking this is just like when we had the big fight 2 years ago about you need to get your Rowdy Girl and Houdini, her firstborn calf, to a sanctuary because they are screwing up everything. You won't let me sell them. They keep getting on the highway. The cops keep coming. That's how Houdini got her name because my rancher friends would call me up and go, hey, Tommy, the cops are out there with that Houdini calf. Rowdy Girl and Houdini knew how to slip the barbed wire fence, and they would grow graze along the highway. Like that, the cops had been there 50 or 60 times I know of until they told me they were going to give me a ticket. And I said, well, look, my wife has gone vegan. At this point, she was vegan, and she won't let me sell the cows. And the girl goes, well, I'm giving somebody a ticket next time they get out. And so then I had to put them in the hay compound. That was the only compound that would hold them. They couldn't escape out of, and they started eating all the winter hay. So it was just,
What was the reaction of the cops to the news that you were coping with a vegan wife?
it was a lady cop, and
Uh-huh.
she stuck her finger like this and went, ugh, vegan. All right. And she goes, look, I'm not going to write you a ticket today, but the next time I come out here, somebody's getting a ticket. When Renee came home,
Uh-huh.
I told her the situation. And I said, what are you going to do with your cows? You're fixing to get me a ticket or you a ticket. Somebody, they're not going to overlook it anymore.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, well, what can we do? I said, well, the only net wire fence we got is the hay compound. So we put them in the hay compound where they started eating the centers of every bale of hay we had. And so, her cows were always getting in the way of my operation. And anyway, there we are in December. She blocked me from selling any more cows. She said she wanted to buy the place. And, if I had it to do it all over again, Glenn, I would not sell them to her. I would say, oh, Renee, I don't want to sell them. I'm going to give them to you. And let's just start a vegan farm animal sanctuary right here in the heart of Texas, where, you know, all my friends are. You know, some of my friends were the president of Brazoria County Cattlemen's Association. You know, I'd lived in Brazoria County my whole life. You know, I knew a lot of people doing the same thing I was doing. I am a trader. And, but, you know, statistically, I got in with a bunch of vegans that started showing me, Dr. Campbell that did the China study, kind of got me thinking about it. Number one, for my health. I looked at this.
How was your health at the time?
Well, my dad died of a heart attack when he was 62. I was weighing almost 250 pounds, and I was in my late 50s at that time, and I was having trouble breathing when I'd cross a big pasture, and I knew I had issues. And
had you gone to the doctor about your issues?
Oh, I go to the doctor every year, and
what would the doctor tell you?
Oh, you know, doctors, here's a pill. Here's a pill. You know,
they gave you statins.
Yeah, and anyway, you know, I knew I needed to make some changes in my life if I wanted to live the full life that I could. And so I started telling Renee, well, I'm going to start eating like you. And this is like right around the new year. I wasn't happy about it. I still wasn't a vegan, and I wasn't happy about the whole situation. But I thought, well, since she doesn't want me bringing meat in the house, I'll try to be a little healthier. And I didn't like what she was having to eat. So I started cooking for myself a lot of jalapeno peppers, onions, and tofu, you know, like tofu scramble type stuff. And pretty much the same thing all the time. And I was eating all I wanted, and weight just started falling off. I wasn't hungry. I lost about 45 pounds, I think, 40
how much
maybe.
Time?
Oh, in 4 months.
Uh-huh.
It just started coming off, and but I was still going to town, and the only thing that kept there at the end, after I started really getting into it, at the end, the only thing that was keeping me from being vegan was I'd go to town to the Sonic and get a grilled cheese sandwich, and I couldn't give up ice cream. May 2nd, 2015, we had our first big festival, and I had bought into the sanctuary stuff. Renee had bought my cows, $30,000. And that was the worst mistake I made. That $30,000 I got probably cost me $500,000. Because, you know, vegans don't like people that buy cows. And they didn't understand that I owned the ranch outright. Renee came into my life. I was fixing to retire from Dow Chemical. I needed that income, but I gave it up. And I couldn't let the cows go for free because your hay equipment, you know, cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And anyway, if I had it all to do over again, I go, no, I'm not selling you my cows. I'm going to donate them to the sanctuary, and we're going to start. I had no idea what a vegan was. I had no idea what a vegan farm animal sanctuary was. But I learned as I went, and it was a crazy ride.
So Renee bought all the cows and decided to turn your property into a farm animal sanctuary. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's what you have today, the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary, right?
Yes. It's
All
been
right.
through a lot. You know, we got flooded down in Brazoria County 3 times. Hurricane Harvey was devastating. We had to evacuate the animals every time. The board of directors decided that we needed to move after Hurricane Harvey. And we bought this land up here in Welder County, or actually Caldwell County, near Welder. And as soon as we bought it, you know, COVID hit, and you know, just we've had a lot of bad luck, but we've had a lot of good luck. There's so many great people in this world that have helped us out, and we're doing really well now.
Well, that's great. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back and find out about this transformation.
Okay.
If you want to optimize your health by following a plant-based low-fat diet, Look into the education, events, recipes, exercise, fun, and more provided by the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group at pbnsg.org.
We're back talking with Tommy Sonnen. We're up to the point of the story where his cattle ranch has turned into a farm sanctuary, the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. Now, you said you had to evacuate the animals after storms like Harvey. Did you feel like Noah? What did you have to do because of this flood? Where'd you put the animals?
Different places. We borrowed pastures from other ranchers or people that own land, but most of the animals went to the Brazoria County fair barn.
Okay.
And it was nuts in there. It was so loud. There were dogs, cats, pigs, goats, sheep, cows. Craziness.
And so after the storm, after the weather dries up, you then take your animals back?
Yeah, but the bad thing is on those floods from the Brazos River, when it floods all your land and it kills all the grass. So the grass doesn't come back for well after, the water goes away. And so you have to feed a lot, and it was tough. We had 3 floods, 2016, 2017, and then 2019. And we moved in 2019. And I am so happy to be up here where we have problems with drought now. We're putting in an irrigation
Where are you
system.
now?
About 1 hour from the Austin airport, real close to Interstate 10, just past Schulenburg, in a little small town near Welder. We're about 5 miles from anything.
Okay.
Very remote, very remote. It's great.
Okay. So when you said before that there was one downside, you lost a lot of money or potential money in this transition to the sanctuary. The positive side is your health improved dramatically from becoming a vegan.
I think it did.
And the other thing is you said you met a lot of great people. So tell me about that transformation.
Well, before I was even vegan, Renee started getting a board of directors. Kip Anderson, unbeknownst to me, told her how to do the GoFundMe to buy my cows.
All right. Kip Anderson is the filmmaker
Yes.
who made Cowspiracy.
Yeah. And then What the Health, and Seaspiracy, and then Christspiracy. And he's just been wonderful. And he was at the May 2nd event down there, and I met him and got to talking with him, and I got to talking with a lot of other vegans that had helped Renee in the early days. And, I couldn't deny the statistics on the health. I couldn't deny the fact that animal agriculture is ruining this world terribly. I mean, you cannot grow enough cows on this planet Earth to keep it a nice, beautiful Earth with all the wildlife that inhabited. And
Yeah,
I mean,
apparently 1.5 billion cows is a little too many for this planet.
well, yeah, we need to make room for the elephants and all the native wildlife.
Yeah.
And because that's what keeps anyway, I bought in on health, I bought in on environmental, and I never liked taking my animals to the sale barn. That was the worst part of being a rancher, other than watching them die if they had an illness or whatever. Dropping them off at the sale barn, they would be looking at me with their eyes about twice as big as they normally were, because they didn't know anybody there that was slapping tags on them or anything, checking them in. They only knew me, and they had a really good life for, 6, 12 months, 14 months, however old they were. And they're looking at me because they don't understand what's going on.
You sense that they felt betrayed?
Yes, I'm still haunted to it to the day, because I'm on the other side of the fence now.
Yeah.
Uh, I can live my life now as a compassionate vegan. I don't need to go kill any animals. I don't need to go to the grocery store and buy any of the packages anymore. Uh, I don't, I still have friends that are so-called normal people, that still eat meat and whatever,
Right.
because I'm not like Renee. I'm not like in their face about it. But I wait for them to ask me questions. And
Uh-huh.
they give me a hard time a lot of times, but I've actually people have looked at me as an example, a lot of times from the health angle,
Yeah.
sometimes from the environmental angle.
Uh-huh.
Uh, if you've got your statistics right and you can, tell people what's happening on this earth, and they may not believe it, but if they go do a little research, they start realizing that I'm right. In fact, to be a good cattle rancher these days, you don't
Yeah.
need to know that much about cows. What you need to know is how to grow grass. And if you can grow grass well, you can be a big rancher or a good rancher. But to grow grass, you have to use chemicals to kill all the broadleafs and berry vines, all the natural stuff. And if you over populate your cows on a piece of property, like a lot of people do that are trying to make money, you run it down terribly.
You
We
burn the
need,
land, right?
yeah, we need that carbon, and we need to store that carbon. And a modern cattle ranch doesn't collect a lot of carbon.
Right.
Uh,
Right. There are some proponents of animal agriculture who want us to believe that the cow manure is magical and multiplies carbon, but
yes,
it's not
that
quite the
that would
case, is it?
that would be the humane aspect. We grow humane, and use all your cow manure, fertilizer, and whatever. And basically, if everybody goes that route, they're not going to be able to supply the beef to the world like they are today,
Right.
because range cattle takes a lot of acres, and actually most people that go to a grocery store and buy beef won't like the taste of grass-fed beef, because most people in America are addicted to beef that has been run through a feedlot and given 6 months of grain to, and
Right.
and that's what most of the ranchers in Texas are. They're cow calf operations. I take my cows back then. I would take them to the sale barn. They would be bought by the middleman. They'd be shipped to a feedlot. They'd be put on all this grain and steroids and antibiotics and everything for
Fattened up for 6 months or so.
yeah, and that's the middleman. And the
Right.
middleman makes their money. And then, and basically most of these big feedlot operations are running on aquifers in like the panhandle of Texas. And
Right.
those aquifers go down every year. They're
Right.
not going to be able to, you know, sustain this operation. What people don't realize is they're going to go plant-based somewhat, whether they want to or not, because the world cannot keep producing beef the way they're doing now and have any wildland left.
Right. Now, have you lost a lot of friends who used to be your friends in the cattle business?
Oh yeah. In fact, my best friend and my partner, we had a hay business together. Uh, I mean, we were like brothers. When I went vegan, he disowned me, and we
Wow.
we had to
Now
split up
tell
our.
without using his name, tell me how that went down. What did he say to you?
He said, "Tommy, we need to split up our hay equipment." I said, "Why? I don't want any part of anything that has vegan attached to it." And he didn't. I'd see him. I mean, he had two small ranches, and I had the one ranch, and we, he'd come over and work on mine. I'd work on his. We had other friends that we worked on each other. Like I said, I worked at Dow with a friend that was the president of the Brazoria County Cattlemen's Association. And, yeah, I lost a lot of friends. And I've gained a lot of friends and I lost a lot of friends.
Okay.
It's been, but you got to do what you feel right in life. And right now, I never had kids. Me and Renee never had any kids. And our legacy, when we leave this earth, like the house goes to the sanctuary, and our legacy will be Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. And we've got cows here that hopefully will, unless I'm in my hundreds, will probably live longer than me. And we got some young ones out here that, are going to live a long time. And
Now, have you been part of Renee's efforts to help other animal farmers transition to being plant farmers?
yes. And,
Tell us about that.
it's hard because the government has all the subsidies stacked against you. And I'm not saying it can't be done. But yeah, we've got a network of people that want to transition animal agriculture people into plant agriculture, but we don't have a like a paint by numbers way to do it. We put there's been a lot of money put into converting over people, and it hasn't been magical. And there's several other people in the United States. Renee started this really before anybody else did, and I told her she was crazy. I said every time she does anything, I tell her, no, that you can't do that, and she proves me wrong. And she's a pretty incredible person. But we want to, but it's my philosophy that what we need right now is we need the government to quit spending so much money, especially on animal agriculture, amongst other things, because our basic budget at home, we don't double it every year when we don't have the money. And they're still supporting dairy and buying cheese to keep people in business. And the same way, every time there's a drought here in Texas, in our particular county, the ranchers will sell half their cows, and then the USDA will give them money to buy them back next year. And there's a crazy amount of subsidies that go into those steaks that people buy at the grocery store. And to me, the day you can pull into a Burger King and have a choice of buying a plant-based meal for 60%, maybe 70% of the cost of real meat is the day it's going to take off, because people in the United States will vote with their dollars. And a lot of people are so busy, taking the kids to soccer practice, working, paying the bills. They don't have time to do the kind of research, they're just normal people. But you let them find out that they can shrink their grocery bill by a lot, and they will do it.
Yeah. Well, this government entity, the USDA, that does everything it can to support animal farmers, that's the same government entity that gives us our nutritional recommendations.
Right.
The what they used to
And
call the food pyramid, and now they call the food plate and all their nonsense. And it's always they've even got dairy as its own food group. Like you must have dairy. And
exactly.
if you look at how many calories per day of dairy they recommend, it's practically people living off dairy.
I agree. The food pyramid is just atrocious.
Yeah. Now, when you were young, did you ever know any vegetarians or vegans?
No.
you remember the first one you ever met?
I don't, but I thought they were all from California or the East Coast and crazy.
So, do you remember the moment when you said to yourself, maybe I could go vegan?
I did it as a spur of the moment. I was still, like I said, I was still on ice cream and cheese,
Right.
no meat from January 2015 till May 2nd, where I'm at the festival. Follow Your Heart was sponsoring us with a lot of cheese, and So Delicious brought in their coconut ice cream.
All right. So
And
these are vegan cheeses and ice creams.
yeah, and so I had just unbelievable people around me that day.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I remember Joyce, a lady that's been supporting us ever since, became vegan that day. And I said, she says, I'm vegan. And I said, count me in, I'm vegan too.
Wow.
And I've never looked back. And the ice cream has gotten better. I love the cashew nut ice cream. I'm not a health food vegan,
Yeah.
but I try to be healthy. I try
Yeah.
to limit my comfort foods, but
Right.
I love them.
Well, what you got to watch out for, Tommy, is the coconut oil that they put in a lot of these uh, packaged vegan foods. Because that coconut oil, you look at how much saturated fat it has, it competes with eating animals. So you got to watch that. Uh,
Absolutely.
what kinds of health changes have you had? You said before you lost 45 pounds. Was
So
that the limit?
I gained back about 10
Okay.
and it equalized right there. I run about 210 to 215 now, and I'm 6 foot tall, and
Okay.
I'm 66 years old now, fixing to turn 67, and I can do some pretty amazing work. In fact, I go metal detecting for like on 3-day hunts with some of my friends that are younger than me that they can't keep up with me.
Yeah, I saw
And
before in your home behind you the metal detecting equipment. How long have you been in the metal? How long has metal detecting been a hobby for you?
well, my dad was in Vietnam, and I talked when I was 10 years old, and I talked my mother into taking me to Houston. And we had a little TV guide that had an ad in it back in 1968. And she took me to Houston, and I had some of the money, and she helped me out. I bought a metal detector and been metal detecting ever since.
So, what are
And
some of the great things you've detected?
I've found gold, I've found silver, I've found old coins, old buttons, historical stuff, you name it. And I've got quite a collection of very unique stuff. I love Texas history, and I've found some. Uh, I've got some Mexican artifacts from where, Santa Ana was camped out. And
Uh-huh.
I just love, when I was a non-vegan, I
Uh-huh.
used to go hunting and looking for arrowheads. In fact, when I was on the deer lease back in the old days, everybody'd give me a hard time. They'd go, "You're not going to shoot no deer looking at the ground," because I was always looking for arrowheads. And I still, you know, I tell everybody I still hunt. I just don't hunt animals. I look
Right.
for arrowheads, and I look for historical objects. And sometimes I'll go to the beach and just look for jewelry and
Uh-huh.
whatnot. But I'm a long way from the beach now, so
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. Um, so you get a lot of exercise, I guess, when you go using your metal detector. A lot of walking involved.
yeah, my heart rate runs about 45, real low. And
Uh-huh.
it's not because I'm unhealthy. It's because I'm have the capability of being athletic, and
Yeah.
I can handle a lot. Of course, my dad died of heart attack when he was 62. So I always, when the engine starts revving up too high, I take a break.
Yeah. My heart rate is a little lower than average too, and I think that's something connected to the vegan diet. I think it's actually healthier when your heart rate is a little lower. I mean,
It's
if
a
you
good
got a
thing.
certain number of beets that you're going to have in your lifetime, you might as well have a few less each day, right?
Absolutely. I like that viewpoint.
Um, so you must still have some friends, I'm sure, who are meat eaters, right?
I do. A
You
lot of
ever get
family,
together
and
with them and have a meal together?
I do. And not right here in this area, but when I go on some of these big hunts and stuff, metal detecting hunts, uh, and they always respect me, you know, they're like, Tommy, can you eat here?
Uh-huh.
Can you eat here? And I always, you know, encourage them to ask questions because I really have some good points on the health side.
Yeah.
And they don't eat so well, and it shows sometimes.
Have you
But
convinced any friends to go vegan?
none that were in my past before I went vegan. But a lot of people that I meet now at the sanctuary, I have
Hmm.
convinced a lot of people to go vegan. Like, for instance, today we had 4 people come on a tour. The 2 ladies were vegan, and their boyfriend and husbands were not.
Hmm.
And they were like me. They eat vegan around the house, but when they go to work, they don't. And
Hmm.
a lot of people that come like that, when I take them for a tour and I show them the chickens, the big 15-pound chickens that are ready to butcher at 65 days, and I tell them that if you eat chicken, you're actually eating a baby chick. And do you realize if you eat that chicken without all the preparation that Tyson does, you won't probably even be able to stomach it. Uh, they prepare that, and it's not natural food. And by the time we get through all of them, all the animals, the cows, the pigs, the goats, you know, I've had a lot of people that got attached to one animal in particular,
Hmm.
and then they come back the next year and they go, "Oh yeah, I've been vegan for almost a year now
Uh-huh.
because I met Leo the sheep, and every time I go out at lunch with the guys and I'd eat, I'd get physically sick later thinking about Leo. I don't know what it was, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, I've had a lot of that.
Yeah. Well, I think it may be true that when people go vegan for the animals, it really sticks, and they just can't emotionally go back to eating meat.
Well, it really works at a sanctuary. Sanctuaries are really hard to keep financially intact because the older animals require so much money, and everything. They're just like people. As they get older, they require more attention.
Hmm.
And we have some really big vet bills and whatnot. But when people see the animals so happy, and the fact that they're just like people, they all have their own uh, quirks and their own little cliques, and some of them like blueberries, and some of them don't, and some of them just want the apples and carrots, and they realize that the animals all have personalities. None of them forget their mothers and their fathers and their little groups, family groups. And anyway, yeah, we have a really high success rate of converting people over here without telling them anything bad.
Yeah. Um, so you wouldn't do anything different, right? If you, in
No,
terms of starting the sanctuary?
no, yeah, I would do something different. I wouldn't, create a big craziness about, no, I'm gonna get divorced, I'm gonna sell the cows, I'm getting out of here. I just simply, knowing what I know now, I wish I'd have just said, yeah, Renee, that's a good idea. Let's start a vegan farm animal sanctuary. I'm gonna quit eating meat and I'm gonna go vegan right now.
Yeah. Well,
But it did
that would
not
have,
work that way.
yeah, that would have been asking a lot of you given your whole background.
But statistically speaking, I just couldn't find a reason not to be vegan. And I was already in a situation that I was in a very unique situation. And, you live longer, you live better, and you don't have to kill animals.
Right.
You don't have to be responsible for killing animals. And, we're just raping the ocean to death. And you don't need the fish.
Uh-huh.
The fish that they catch now and sell are mostly what was called trash fish back in the 60s.
Uh-huh.
But they've already got all the fish, species that they were getting back then. It's they go from one species to the next.
Well, there must have been a moment when you said to yourself, you know what? Maybe my crazy wife is actually sane.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can go that far. She's a she's a crazy genius.
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah, I mean, but I'm the one that is the doubter. I never believe, like we get. She's gone to the USDA, and
Uh-huh.
we work with the USDA now. And I told her those are the enemy, Renee. You can't go to the USDA. Well, come to find out, if you have cows and
Yeah.
you're a 501c3
Yeah.
and other sanctuaries are watching this, you better go talk to your USDA, because there you will fit into a program that will help you.
Really?
And
The
that much,
USDA will help a sanctuary?
if you're a 501c3 and you have cows, that's the only program that we have fit into.
Okay. So how do they help you?
Well, I told her she was crazy for even going up there. I said, that's
Uh-huh.
going to put us on the
List.
bullseye on them. They're
Yeah.
going to know we're here now. Well, we
Yeah.
go in there talking to them, and we had a drought out here, and they
Uh-huh.
said, well, you have cows, because we told them instantly we're vegan. We don't sell our cows. They're there for life. Oh, and Renee said, we're a 501c3. Oh, you're a 501c3. And the lady's flipping through,
Yeah.
regulations. And she says, you have cows and you're a 501c3. Yes, we have a program that you will fit into.
Oh.
And at that time, it was just reimbursing us for some feed cost that we shipped in. If during a drought, if you ship in over, I think 30 miles for your feed, and we were getting hay from like 200 miles away, and they helped us out on transportation cost.
Well, that is
Well,
the nicest thing I've ever heard about the USDA.
well, the thing is, Glenn, the government is bloated,
Right.
and the people that are giving away all this tax money uh, are going to give it to somebody.
Right.
And if a vegan comes in there that fits into the category, they can't deny it.
All right.
And
Well,
so other sanctuaries that hear this, uh, you might want to go talk to them.
there you
There may
go.
be there may be other programs. I ask about, we're putting in an irrigation system because of the drought prone area we're in. And I asked, do you have anything, when they told us, and they were very nice to us, because they got to give away all this money.
Right.
And what to the ranchers, and apparently they give away a lot of money. But anyway, they will help you out with an irrigation system if you had an irrigation system for 2 years and you needed to upgrade it, and you had cows, and you were a 501c3. We didn't have it, so we didn't get any help.
Mhm.
But it's crazy, and I encourage vegan farm animal sanctuaries to explore the possible opportunities, because if you don't get it, animal ag is.
Yeah. And animal ag is getting 99.9% of the money, I'm sure.
And Renee is actually on I can't recall the acronym, but she's in a group that lobbies in Washington for more money to convert people to plant-based animal plant-based farms.
Right.
And some of those would be to convert from animal ag to plant-based, but they're just lobbying to get more money from the government to start plant-based businesses. And, they're very biased because, we have one lobbyist maybe,
Right.
and they have what, 500?
Right.
And the 500 have millions that come from all these giant corporations. Because like Monsanto, their corn,
Well, I don't
it's
think 500 to 1 odds really is very daunting for Renee. Um, so I would just let the bureaucrats in Washington know that fighting Renee is not a very good strategy. You might just want to listen to Tommy and go along.
I don't know. We have a long way to go, but we're getting there,
Yeah.
I mean, this time when I started the vegan journey, you could not go into a grocery store and get it very much vegan stuff. There
Right.
was a little, but now you can go in there and you're just like, wow, I've got to read the labels and see how
Yeah.
healthy this is. I got to try this. I got to try this. And Renee is basically all fruit now.
Yeah. All fruit. She's becoming a fruitarian?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
I think in the last 30 days, she's eaten about 30 watermelons.
Oh my goodness.
We go straight to the watermelon farm and load up the truck.
Wow. All right. I couldn't do that all fruit. I don't know if that's best. Uh, I love my potatoes.
Yeah, I grow a lot of potatoes. I've got a little vegan farm here, and that's one of my main things. Every year I grow some potatoes. And
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's good for the human body to have some starch-based foods, vegetables, whole grains. But certainly fruits are healthy. Tommy, so delighted to have you on the vegan team, and
I'm glad to be here.
I'm delighted that Renee converted you. So people who want to help can go where? To rowdygirlsanctuary.org. Is that the website?
Yes, it is.
So folks out there, please go to rowdygirlsanctuary.org and see what you could do to help. Tommy, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This has been the Glenn Mercer Show, where everyone listening turns vegan, regains their health, and annoys their friends and relatives. Find us on YouTube at The Glenn Mercer Show and across all your major podcast platforms. Don't forget to subscribe.